Imagine you pointing a weapon at a 5-year-old and my grandchild. He had to be frightened by himself like that. Are you kidding me? You take my grandchild and you're 16? Where are your parents? He was just 5. Why would you do that to him? You're not even an adult.
The anguished cry of a grandmother echoes through the courtroom, her words piercing the hearts of all present. This is the story of a tragedy that shook Detroit to its core, the brutal murder of a young family, including a 5-year-old boy named Caleb Harris. But it's also a tale of a community's resilience, a grandmother's quest for justice, and the chilling reality of youth violence in America's cities. February 21st, 2022, Detroit, Michigan. The city holds its breath as news breaks of 2 arrests in connection with a horrific triple homicide. The suspects? 2 teenagers, aged 16 and 17. The victims? A young couple and their 5-year-old son. The community, already grappling with high crime rates and economic struggles, is stunned by the youth of the alleged perpetrators.
Words can't explain what it's like to see a 5-year-old child laying just gunshot wounds. How very sad that is.
As the community reels from this revelation, we turn back the clock to unravel the events that led to this moment. The arrest of these young suspects brings to light the complex issues of youth violence, poverty, and lack of opportunities that plague many urban areas. February 18th, 2022, Evergreen Avenue, Detroit. The sun sets on a quiet street, but an eerie silence hangs in the air. Inside a modest home at 15,310 Evergreen Street, a gruesome scene awaits discovery. Aaron Benson's cousin, concerned after days of unanswered calls, pushes open the back door at 9:27 p.m. What he finds will haunt him forever.
It's just inexcusable for anyone to get whatever the issue was, to get that outrage with whomever they were having conflict with, to bring a baby into this.
3 bodies, multiple gunshot wounds, a family erased. But it's the smallest victim that breaks the hearts of even the most hardened detectives. 5-year-old Caleb Harris, shot style in his own bedroom. The brutality of the crime scene speaks to a level of violence that shocks even veteran police officers. The discovery sets off a frantic investigation. Police cordon off the area, forensic teams meticulously comb through the house, and detectives begin the painstaking process of piecing together the final moments of the victims' lives. The community, already on edge due to rising crime rates, is plunged into fear and grief. As news of the tragedy spreads, we learn more about the lives cut short. LaShawn Marshall, 28, a vibrant young woman with a passion for social justice. Aaron Benson, 32, her boyfriend and partner in life. And little Caleb, a bright-eyed boy on the cusp of his 6th birthday.
She was one of the best comedians you could ever meet. Like, she always busted a joke. Like, her personality was so silly and goofy.
Lashin's story is one of resilience. Growing up in foster care, she channeled her experiences into advocacy, working tirelessly to end poverty and improve children's lives. Her sister, Chanel, remembers a woman full of life and love whose journey from foster care to community advocate inspired many.
She was a single mom. Like, it was always her and her son, through everything. That was her world, her rock.
Lashin was deeply involved with the Passionate Lotion's Heart to End Poverty organization, traveling to Washington, D.C. to advocate for policy changes. Her work focused on creating opportunities for underprivileged youth, making her own tragic end at the hands of young suspects all the more sorrowful.
She wanted to tell her story so that people in Washington, D.C. and Congress could understand.
Aaron Benson, though less is known about him, was described by friends as a supportive partner to Lashin and a loving figure in Caleb's life. His cousin's discovery of the crime scene speaks to the close-knit nature of their family ties. But it's Caleb who captures the city's heart. A child full of promise, his life snuffed out before it truly began. His death becomes a rallying cry for a community fed up with violence.
He loved to travel with his dad. And with his mom, he was her only child. So I mean, it's just much more you can say. He's only 5, so he had not much life to live.
As the community mourns, questions begin to surface. Who could commit such a heinous act, and why? The senseless nature of the crime, particularly the murder of a child, leaves many struggling to comprehend the depth of this tragedy. The investigation into the triple homicide of Lashin Marshall, Caleb Harris, and Aaron Benson began immediately after the discovery of their bodies. Detroit Police Chief James White, recognizing the gravity of the situation, committed significant resources to the case.
Every resource we have is going to be dedicated to pursuing and apprehending the person that committed this heinous act.
Chief White stating how the investigation would go. The initial phase of the investigation was critical. Detroit police officers arrived at the scene on Evergreen near Finkel Street, where they discovered the bodies of Lashin Marshall, Aaron Benson, and 5-year-old Caleb Harris. As stated by Commander Michael McGinnis, the discovery of young Caleb was particularly disturbing.
Words can't explain what it's like to see a 5-year-old child laying gun wounds. How very sad that is.
Forensic teams carefully examined the crime scene while detectives began searching around the neighborhood. The police were looking for people who might have seen or heard something strange on the night of the killings. Detroit Police Chief James White assured the public that the department would use all resources at their disposal to find and arrest the person responsible for this terrible crime. One of the key breakthroughs in the early stages of the investigation came from the community itself. Responding to appeals for information, residents of the area came forward with crucial tips. The community's response was crucial, with Commander McGinnis later acknowledging,
And on behalf of Homicide, thanking you very much for your help and your support.
This flood of information led investigators to focus on 2 teenage suspects, a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old. The revelation that the potential perpetrators were so young added another layer of complexity to the case and shocked the community. Shalisa Floyd, Caleb's grandmother, voiced the disbelief felt by many when she learned of the suspects' ages.
Are you kidding me? You take my grandchild and you're 16? Where are your parents?
On February 23, 2022, just days after the bodies were discovered, Detroit police announced a significant development. Both teenage suspects had been taken into custody. The arrests were made without incident, thanks in large part to the tips provided by the public. Commander McGinnis publicly acknowledged the crucial role of community assistance in this breakthrough. However, the investigation was far from over. As detectives dug deeper, they began to uncover more details about the circumstances surrounding the murders. Sources close to the investigation revealed that the motive appeared to be a robbery gone terribly wrong. The investigation took a tragic turn when it was revealed that at least one of the suspects knew the victims personally. While 2 teenagers were initially suspected, careful review of the evidence led to the arrest of only one. The 17-year-old suspect was ultimately released due to insufficient evidence. This decision, though legally necessary, left many following the case with a sense of disappointment and frustration. February 23, 2022, Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. Prosecutor Kim Worthy stands before a sea of reporters, her face grim. The charges are read out: 3 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of felony murder, 2 counts of armed robbery, and 8 counts of felony firearm. The accused, 16-year-old Malcolm Ray Hardy, charged as an adult.
Is truly disturbing, especially as it relates to young Caleb. For many reasons, it is disheartening to know that a juvenile is alleged to have committed these acts.
The decision to charge Hardy as an adult sparks debate. Some argue for rehabilitation, others for harsh punishment. But for Caleb's family, no sentence can bring back their little boy. This debate reflects a larger national conversation about juvenile justice and the appropriate way to handle young offenders who commit serious crimes. The charges against Hardy are severe, reflecting the gravity of the alleged crimes. However, his age raises complex legal and ethical questions. Should a 16-year-old be tried as an adult? What factors should be considered in making this decision? These questions become central to the public discourse surrounding the case. Evergreen Avenue, once a symbol of Detroit's struggles, now bears the weight of this tragedy. Residents speak of economic hardship, easy access to guns, and a lack of opportunities for youth. But they also speak of resilience, of a community determined to heal. The neighborhood, like many in Detroit, has faced significant challenges over the years. High unemployment rates and poverty levels have contributed to a sense of instability and vulnerability among residents. The easy availability of firearms, often through illegal channels, has exacerbated the problem of violence. Yet, in the face of this tragedy, the community's strength shines through. Neighbors come together to support the victims' families, providing information to the police when asked to aid in the suspect's arrest. Wayne County Circuit Court, 1 year later. The courtroom is packed as Malcolm Ray Hardy takes the stand, now 17. The trial became a focal point for the community, with many seeing it as a test of the justice system's ability to address youth violence. As the prosecution presents its case, a picture emerges of a robbery gone horribly wrong. But for Caleb's family, no explanation can justify the loss of their precious boy. The trial reveals the complex factors that led to this tragedy: poverty, lack of opportunities, and the allure of quick money through crime.
Imagine you pointing a weapon at a 5-year-old and killing my grandchild. He had to be frightened by himself like that.
The trial reveals shocking details about the crime. 22 shots were fired that night. Caleb and Benson were both shot 9 times, while Marshall was shot 4 times. The brutality of the act stuns even the most seasoned courtroom observers. These details paint a picture of a crime marked by extreme violence and a disregard for human life that's difficult to reconcile with the youth of the perpetrator. Throughout the trial, the defense team argues that Hardy's young age and the circumstances of his upbringing should be taken into account. They present evidence of a troubled home life, limited access to mental health resources, and the pervasive influence of gang culture in his neighborhood. This defense strategy sparks a broader conversation about the factors that lead young people to commit violent crimes. The jury deliberates for just 3 hours. The verdict: guilty on all counts. As the judge prepares to pass sentence, Caleb's grandmother, Shalisa Floyd, addresses the court. Her victim impact statement becomes one of the most powerful moments of the trial.
I'm just thinking to myself, like, he could have grown up to be anything he wanted. It's our future. He was our future. Why would you take my grandson from me?
The sentence is handed down, 28 to 60 years for each charge, to be served concurrently, plus 2 years for the gun charge. Hardy will serve a minimum of 30 years. The sentence reflects the severity of the crime, but also takes into account Hardy's age at the time of the offense. The sentencing sparks mixed reactions. Some feel it's too lenient given the brutality of the crimes, while others argue that it's appropriate considering Hardy's youth. This divide reflects the ongoing debate about how to balance justice, punishment, and rehabilitation in cases involving juvenile offenders. The tragedy of Caleb Harris is not an isolated incident. It's part of a larger pattern of youth violence that plagues many urban areas across the United States. Cities like Chicago, Baltimore, and Philadelphia have reported rising rates of violent crimes committed by teenagers, often linked to gang activity and socioeconomic factors. The ease of access to firearms is a common thread in many of these cases. In Detroit, as in other cities, the availability of guns has led to an escalation of violence, turning what might have been disputes or robberies into deadly encounters. The proliferation of illegal firearms in urban areas has made it all too easy for young people to obtain weapons, with tragic consequences. The decision to charge Malcolm Ray Hardy as an adult sparked intense debate within legal circles and the community at large. This case brings to the forefront the ongoing discussion about how the justice system should handle juvenile offenders who commit serious crimes. Advocates for trying juveniles as adults in severe cases argue that it provides justice for the victims and acts as a deterrent for other young people. They contend that the brutality of the crime, particularly the style of a 5-year-old demands the harshest possible punishment, regardless of the perpetrator's age. This perspective is often driven by a desire for retribution and a belief in the deterrent effect of severe sentences. On the other hand, those opposed to this practice contend that young offenders have a greater capacity for rehabilitation and that adult sentences may do more harm than good in the long run. They point to scientific research on brain development, which shows that the adolescent brain is not fully mature, particularly in areas related to impulse control and decision-making. This view emphasizes the potential for reform and the idea that young offenders should be given the opportunity to turn their lives around. The debate surrounding Hardy's case reflects a larger national conversation about juvenile justice reform. In recent years, some states have moved to limit the circumstances under which juveniles can be tried as adults, recognizing the potential long-term consequences of such decisions. Others have maintained stricter policies, particularly for violent crimes. Ultimately, the decision to try Hardy as an adult in this case was made by the prosecutor based on the severity of the crime and other factors. However, the debate surrounding this decision continues, highlighting the complex and often contentious nature of juvenile justice in cases involving serious violent crimes. The Caleb Harris case has prompted discussions about potential policy changes to prevent similar tragedies. Some of the proposed measures include 1. Stricter gun control laws to limit access to firearms, especially for minors. 2. Increased funding for youth intervention programs and mental health services in schools. 3. Enhanced community policing efforts to build trust between law enforcement and residents. 4th, reforms in the juvenile justice system to balance rehabilitation with accountability for serious crimes. These proposals reflect a growing recognition that preventing youth violence requires a multifaceted approach addressing not only criminal justice but also education, mental health, and community development. As our story draws to a close, we're left to ponder the broader implications of this tragedy. The loss of LaShawn, Aaron, and little Caleb represents not just the end of 3 lives, but the loss of potential, of dreams unfulfilled. It's a stark reminder of the work that remains to be done in our cities to protect our most vulnerable citizens. The case of Caleb Harris serves as a stark reminder of the work that remains to be done in our cities. It challenges us to address the root causes of youth violence, to create opportunities where there are none, and to protect the most vulnerable among us. It's a call to action for policymakers, educators, law enforcement, and community members alike. As we leave Detroit, the words of Caleb's aunt, Chanel Marshall, linger.
You're a coward because you stole a kid's life. He didn't even get to live to see 6. You know, you stole everything from him and his mom.
In the end, this is not just a story of tragedy, but a call to action. For Caleb, for all our children, we must do better. Storm of factors that can push vulnerable youth towards crime. The Caleb Harris case, occurring in the midst of this global crisis, reflects these broader societal challenges. The story of Caleb Harris, LaShawn Marshall, and Aaron Benson is more than a tragedy. It's a call to action. It challenges us to examine our society, our values, and our commitment to protecting the most vulnerable among us. As we conclude this exploration of their story, we're left with crucial questions. How can we create a society where such tragedies are prevented? What can each of us do in our communities to support at-risk youth and build a safer future for all children? The answers to these questions won't come easily, but they are essential if we are to honor the memory of Caleb and countless other victims of violence. It's up to all of us, community members, leaders, educators, and law enforcement, to work together towards a future where every child can grow up safe, loved, and full of promise. As we conclude this heartbreaking story, I want to turn to you, our viewers. What can we, as a society, do to prevent such tragedies in the future? How can we address the root causes that lead young people to commit such heinous crimes? Your thoughts and perspectives could provide valuable insights during this difficult time. Please share your ideas in the comments section below. Your voice has the power to spark meaningful discussions and inspire action within our communities. And if you're not already a subscriber, be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated on the latest developments in this case and other important stories that impact our society. Until next time, stay safe and remember, every child's life is precious. Let's work together to create a world where tragedies like Caleb's become a thing of the past.